Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your co-pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue on our journey of learning just one Chinese expression a day. So we are covering some very big philosophical concept these days. Yesterday, we talked about 人生无常. So if you say this to a Chinese listener or your friend, it would be very impressive. It's probably one of the better known or best known Chinese expressions to adjust your expectation, which is no expectation. So that way, when you see life as having no norm or the good times won't last, that sense, right? So don't even expect a trajectory that going upward or keeping flat. Most likely, it's probably going downhill. Sorry, but we have second concept today that relate to the perception of life itself. So 向死而生, the same. 生 means the life, the human life, the whole lifespan, the stories, what you're going to see through the timeline of your lifespan of one person's life. Okay, that's the concept of life here. But okay, so if we talked about 向死而生, 死 and 生 are opposite. 死 is the death, the other status of being, and 生 is the opposite. And but here 生 is actually not a noun, it's a verb. It's tell you to live your life. Okay, one by one. 向, this is the 向 character, which basically look like a space, and then there is a window on top of the space, and then this pointer is pointing to a direction. In ancient Chinese habitat making, so basically architecture, I mean contemporary concept, housings back then, when new houses were built, the direction of the housing facing is very big deal back then. I guess in contemporary in America or contemporary life, the facing of the building is kind of a critical, because it involves with how you are going to receive lighting, right? And one set of facing of the housing here is like pointing toward the north. So here is a visualize, almost like a map view of something, and the upward pointing is the north direction. So that's the initial, this characterization initially means the housing that's facing the north. And this facing concept, north is irrelevant, but this facing concept become captured and used to generalize in other areas. So face, death, okay, death is this big concept. We have left and right structure, both are symbols, are meaning makers. So the right one, we're very familiar, which is the stick figure that in modern simplified Chinese version, stick figure, right, with two legs. But sometimes we stylized with kind of this way or that way, but still the structure is the same with two, I interpret it as legs. And then this is the the small tiny body. The left side, on the other hand, are bones, the leftovers of the dead person. So, okay, so the left actually means the body. So my interpretation now is the body, the leftovers, the remains of a human, that's lifeless, right? But the right side is the spirit of the human that can make decisions or think, do the human thing, and that defines human, right? Your consciousness over there. So there is a separation of the body and the spirit. When there is a separation, that means the person, the spirit, is going away because it's left with the remains only, the bodies, the bones, and the flesh, which are going to change its form. So that's the concept of death, the separation of body and the spirit. Or we talked about before, that's a connector word of Chinese that could mean continuation means and, right? So talking about one thing and another thing, or it could mean a twist of idea becomes a but. So in this case, obviously, death is one thing, and you're looking at death, right? And in this context, it must be a but when you talk about how to live your life. There is a twist of concept because, okay, these two are opposing concepts, death and life. So the connector word in the middle have to be but. It's a twist. We're not talking about the same thing, actually, when we're facing death, but we are going to continue live with this concept of we are actually going to die one day. So that's facing death, but live with this awareness. So I translated into English concept as death consciousness. And it turned out there's some album, somebody created music that's titled like that. I think, wow. So I just coined this word and somebody already used it. So that's a nice cross-culture happy meeting in the middle. So death consciousness, absolutely, as somebody already thought about that. And I use this painting Scream, and the current, probably 2022 or 2021, released the movie The Scream as a representation of artistic, either in a film or in painting, 2D art, or 3D plus time, 4D art form, people's renderings, perceptions of death, or the sense of something is going bad, is coming. So Scream actually originally, it gives you this visual depiction of anxiety, the ultimate, like the extreme form of anxiety, stress, or I don't know, suicidal tendency could be, right? I mean, we can interpret it in different ways, but this skull, kind of molting shape of skull, borrowed this, distorted human face that's screaming. So it looks like a screaming forever, right? Like, so that it ties to the title of the film, which, this in black hoodie and with this skull mask, melting skull mask, it must be very much the interpretation of the concept of death visualized itself, right? It's a killer in that costume and announcing like it's carrying out the death execution on some random people. So, okay, I want to quote this because I saw this in social media a lot recently. Probably some known person circulate this and it becomes a popular catch-on. We have two lives. The second one begins when we realize we have only one life, right? And so that means ever since you started to realize you're going to die one day, have a sort of mature understanding of death consciousness, then your life really begins, because now you're factoring death, you have limited lifespan, and you already spent so much, X amount, and the remaining X percentage are only what you have. And in religions, I'm not going to be controversial talking about religion here, but people may try to avoid death and think it in Eastern philosophy too, like we see this reincarnation, right? The cycling, like even if you're dead in this life cycle, you're going to have another chance, repeat yourself in different probably bodies or life forms in later life. But over here, Confucius actually talks about you only have one. There's no more afterwards. And when you realize your base, your operating base is really one life only, that's when you're going to think how to best use your limited amount of time. So that's the wise saying from wise Chinese old man. And that tied nicely to our concept today, 向死而生. Cash into the currency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.